All right, then back to sharing my screen. Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. I'm hoping that you're all having a good day. I would like to start, as I usually do, with a land acknowledgement. The land on which the University of Toronto operates and from which I also am working during COVID has for thousands of years been the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and recently the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to work, live, and play here. So thank you all for joining us this morning, afternoon, midday, depending on where in the world or the country you're reaching us from. What we're going to do today is to have introductions to our team, and to keep it streamlined, what I've done is I've put some pictures together, but you will be hearing from a few of them throughout the presentation. We'll be discussing some of the preclinical documentation requirements that you have to complete in preparation for your placements. We will be discussing our emphases, and I'll tell you more about that before we launch in and have experts in the field talk about what it would be like to do an emphasis with them. Also, we'll address collaborative specializations. This is a lot of content about what is beyond just your basic MPH in nutrition and dietetics, but this is the time to hear about it. And then, of course, we'll have time for your questions, and there are a few additional administrative details that we want to make sure we share with you. Okay. So who we are. This is your faculty team. Yay! All of us are here with you today. I'm the program director, and we also have Eric. Eric, would you like to wave to everybody? Maybe they can see you better. Yep. And Mary, who is organizing Practica. And Angela, who is this year organizing Practica, and we're really hoping that she's going to continue to play an important role as a part of our faculty next year. And Rhea, who's our program administrative coordinator, and she's been extremely helpful, although she's fairly new to the program herself. We have partners, as you all know from the process of applying for our program. We have three partners for now. I've got them in alphabetical order here. This is not about history or anything else of importance. It's alphabetical just to make things work. So Compass Group is our newest partner, and Dahlia, can you wave to everybody, is our connection into Compass's world. They are helping to help, all of our partners help to craft our content for our curriculum and also offer placement opportunities. So you're going to hear more from Dahlia about a new emphasis. Toronto Public Health is also a very important partner. Unfortunately, right now, as you can well imagine, everybody at Toronto Public Health is completely focused on pandemic management. And unfortunately, we were not able to have Daniela Batoni join us for this today. We hope that Daniela will be able to come back into our program and work with you by the time you're all in the program, but I guess we'll wait and see. And last, but certainly not least, is our champion at UHN, Tracy Burke. Yep, thank you, Tracy. Clinical work is something that Tracy has helped us to really strengthen in our program, and she's going to tell you some more about a way that you can get more involved in that too. So that is the group, and we are all here in support of you, not just as figureheads. So hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to us, hopefully in person by the fall maybe, and if not, we're always open to speaking with you virtually to support you in whatever way you need. Okay. So I'm not going to say too much more right now because I want to pass the floor to, I believe it's Mary, who's going to be leading the discussion about synergy and what this preclinical requirements are all about. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to give Mary the code pilot seat.
Excellent, thank you. I don't have a slide, Pierrette, so you can always leave that up if it makes it easier for you. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you. Congratulations to all of you. It's nice to meet you all virtually. What a concept, this Zoom thing. Hi. I wanted to, I'm just very briefly going to give you a high-level overview of what placements will look like in terms of how you and I will work together to make this all happen next year. That's a bit of a precursor to the whole synergy piece, which both Angela and I will talk a little bit about. Angela has had the firsthand experience with it. I was involved in setting it up. However, there are some important pieces of information that you will need to know about the preclinical documentation requirements. So with respect to placements, just as a recap, you'll be aware and familiar with the fact that you will need 24 weeks in placement, and you will be required to fulfill those in a minimum of 3 different areas for competency achievement, and there may be multiple placements, just to give you a heads up, to be able to achieve the competencies that you need in the areas of food service management. And so excited to have Dahlia join us for the emphases around this whole area, and also clinical. Thankful to Tracy for all the students she takes at UHN for the clinical emphases, and then of course the population and public health competency area. Just again, as a real high level, I'm going to be setting up meetings with each one of you to discuss your interests and your preferences for placement. It may look kind of interesting still next year because we're not really sure where we will be in the COVID landscape, to be quite frank. I don't know if we'll be looking at the continuation of remote placements. It's possible there may be lots that are in person, and more likely there may be placements that we're looking at that will be a hybrid combination of what these may look like. I'll be sending you an email to set up. I'll be working with Rhea to set this up, and we'll be sending you an email so that you can book a time to meet with me. I will send out some questions specifically around what your interests are, your career aspirations, where you think you might like to spend some time. And importantly, I will need to know from you where you plan to do your placements, because the placements will occur between January and June. And we are going to ask that you try as much as possible to keep your summer open, so that if the need arises with any cancellation of placements or anything that might need to, be altered, that you are available to be able to extend placements and placement time into the summer, so that you can then start the fall of your second year with, unfettered by placement time. Hopefully we're kind of through COVID. To a certain extent, it will be with us. For sure, it will be with us. However, hoping that we'll be, out of the woods a little bit by the time all of you are ready for placement in January. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, but there are many, mitigating factors. We have preceptors who've been so generous with their time to continue to offer our students placements, and they're getting a little tired. So we're very cognizant of the fact that this is happening, and working and doing our best to make all of this work. Having said that, Synergy is who we are dealing with to collect the preclinical documentation that will be required of you before you can go into placement in January. Again, this will be another email that you will get from me with respect to MPRAD, with respect to what's required of you. Synergy is a third-party confidential, a confidential third-party platform that will, who will collect your preclinical documentation requirements that have to do with specific immunization that you will need to have prior to entering any clinical placement, and perhaps others as well. There's a police check that's involved. We're looking at mask fit also as another requirement, although there have been some nuances around that as well. But most importantly, a requirement for the upcoming year with respect to placements is COVID vaccination. And we can certainly field any questions you may have at the end of the presentations today. There will be lots more information coming about this, but as Angela and I talked earlier, it will be incumbent upon you to deal with both of these emails that we send you. One, to book time in August to start talking about placements, and number two, to start dealing with the preclinical documentation, because you will need to reach out to your physician or health practitioner to be able to access the information that you will need to complete and submit to Synergy. So I think that's it in terms of sort of high level. I'm not sure if Angela would like to add anything about Synergy. She's actually had the firsthand experience with the students in first year to be getting to access and get the information that's required. Is there anything you want to add, Angela, about any of this?
I don't want to add too much other than I would say that when you do receive your information with your list of requirements for Synergy, that you don't waste too much time getting started with that collecting that information.
Yeah.
And that's because, as Mary mentioned, you will have to check in with your doctor, but in some cases, we've had students who have done blood work to see what their immune status is for a number of things and have found out that they aren't immune, even though they may have had, say, hepatitis shot years ago, for example, and they may have to take another course of vaccines. And that takes time. You can't necessarily do that for something like hepatitis. It's a monthly shot for 3 months. So if you need some of these things, you need the time to get them collected and together before, best case scenario, before January when you start in placement. And it can impact which placements you're able to go to if you don't have all of the information pulled together. And Mary, did you mention there is a fee for Synergy?
Yes, there is a fee for Synergy. I did not mention it. Thank you for that. And I believe it's $55. Is that correct, Pierre? I think that's what we're looking at for the upcoming year. Yeah.
And if for some reason you're not ready for your appointment with Synergy and you have to cancel it, there can be another fee to rebook that appointment. So important when you get the information to get your ducks in a row and get all your information pulled together and do that appointment just once.
Yeah. So lots more information coming about all of this soon.
Do you guys have a sense, a timeline as to when those kinds of emails will come out to the students?
The email with respect to setting up appointments to start talking about placement will likely happen in July. And I believe we're waiting for a final email list, Pierrette. Is that correct? As soon as we have a final student
We have a final list, so we can share that. But then the Synergy information, which Angela has just emphasized how time sensitive that can be started, that should come out by when?
That will come out at this point. Why don't, so we're in May, why don't we say that could come out by the end of June?
Okay.
Yeah. We'll work with Synergy to craft an email that is consistent with the kinds of things that we're looking for and to include the new information around COVID vaccination. And once we get that organized, let's say by the end of June, you will all have that in hand, probably both emails. We'll aim for the end of June. And so make sure to check emails. And do all the students now have their U of T email?
No, not yet. So far, we'll still be corresponding with them by the application email. That extra piece starts happening in July where they can get a U of T email.
Okay. All right.
And just a comment about, I'm going to sound like I'm completely contradicting myself right now, but one of the pieces of information that you'll have to get is your police background check with vulnerable sector. And in some, you have to get that in the jurisdiction that you live in. And in some cases, those are only good for 6 months. Excuse me. In some cases, they're good for a year. And we need you to have something that covers the entire time that you're in placement. So in some cases, you may need to get another one during the time frame if it expires. And so although I say get started on it right away, if you do that one too soon, then you're guaranteed it will expire in the middle. And so you probably want to leave that one a little bit later, but you'll get all that information in the email.
It's probably a good thing to check on in terms of the expiration date, given wherever you're applying for the vulnerable sector screening review, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Christine had a question. In general, I'm going to ask that we share the questions at the end, but since there's one right now, why don't you go ahead, Christine?
Okay, thank you. Just in relation to the U of T email, I was trying to set up like the U of T card, but it was asking for like the UT.
Yeah, you're not quite ready for that yet. I'll get to that towards the end.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That's not something that you need to do right now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, So, and I will come back to that. I do have it on my final slide for you. But let me move on now into our emphases. Trying to make this go forward, and sometimes it go up. There we go. So an emphasis, what is it? Before I launch you over to our two partners that are going to talk to you about their particular emphasis, I'm going to talk about them in general. So an emphasis, oops, sorry, wasn't intending to have that appear. An emphasis is a subspecialty, for lack of a better way of describing it. Within your graduate degree, you don't have to complete an emphasis, but some people come into the program knowing that there's an area of practice that especially interests them, or an area that they would like to dig deeper into, and they would like to sign up for an emphasis that will be noted on their transcript at the end, that will allow them to develop networks in that particular part of the field, that will give them extra experience in that area. And so for this reason, we've actually created 3 emphases. One of them right now is not happening because our partner, Toronto Public Health, is not in a position to be able to support it. But our other 2 emphases you're going to hear about today. And what I also want to make sure that you all appreciate is that you don't need an emphasis in order to be able to be qualified as a dietitian. Our basic program that everybody must complete in order to get your degree is what is accredited to bring you to entry to practice status as a dietitian. However, the emphasis is something extra, something over and above for those of you who know that there's an area you'd like to be maybe employed in the future, or at least you'd like to study more. What happens in an emphasis is you let us know that this is your interest. There's an application process. Then once you're in, you've been accepted, and we'll talk a little bit in the case of each of our partners how that happens. You will be required to do in your second year an extra elective course that's specific to your emphasis. You will be required to spend the extra 4 weeks of discretionary time that we normally include in everybody's practicum, because you're required to do 24 weeks, and we mandate specific lengths of time that only come up to 20 weeks to give you some flexibility. Well, your flexibility gets put into your emphasis area. And then in your final year as well, you have what's called a culminating course, a major project that you'll be doing. That project will need to be done in context of your emphasis. But otherwise, you're free to choose other electives and explore the rest of the program as you would normally if you were a student who didn't have an emphasis. So again, this will be, once you finished it, noted on your final transcript and give you a chance to really get a deeper understanding and a deeper set of experiences and some potentially mentorship and network in a particular part of the field that interests you. So given that background, I'm going to shift now, and I'll stop sharing because I know that Tracy has something to share with you about the clinical nutrition emphasis. So hang on, Tracy, I'll give you co-hosting privilege.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Tracy Burke. I am the Education Coordinator for Clinical Nutrition at the University Health Network. And congratulations and welcome to the program. Look forward to getting to know all of you in the upcoming year. UHN has been partnered with U of T Nutrition and Dietetics program for 6 years now. And you will, regardless of whether or not you end up in the clinical emphasis, you will all get some exposure to the dietitians from UHN who come into the classroom to teach about their clinical specialties. But today I'll just be outlining a bit more detail what the clinical emphasis involves. Oops. I think we could just skip that slide that I flew over, because really it was just reiterating what Pierrette already said, which is that the emphasis is a bit of a deeper dive into a particular area. So if you think that you're really interested in clinical nutrition and see yourself kind of moving that way with your career, then certainly this would be a good option for you. So we'll just review some of the requirements for the emphasis here. So What that would mean is that of your 24 weeks of placement, 16 of them would be spent in clinical placements at UHN. You would have an additional course requirement. So of your 2 electives, one of them would have to be either clinical nutrition or theory and practice of behavior change in health professional settings. And then lastly, your culminating project that you would do in your second year would be focused on a clinical topic and likely generated through the University Health Network. Okay. Okay, so students that come to UHN rotate through 4 placements, and these placements, the first placement is 3 weeks in length, and students do that in a paired way. So they're with another student for those 3 weeks as you are introduced into the organization and get used to kind of the way things operate. After that 3-week placement, you go off on your own for 2 consecutive 4-week placements. And then your last placement is a 5-week placement. So your placements are arranged really with the goal to give you the breadth of experience that a clinical dietitian would get. And UHN has 4 hospital sites: Toronto General, Toronto Western, Princess Margaret Cancer Centre, and Toronto Rehab Institute. So we aim to kind of expose you to different settings across those hospitals so that you're able to develop competence in delivering enteral feeds, as well as counseling, delivering patient education, and working with the interprofessional team. Students also have the option of submitting their preferences for different areas. And those that are accepted into the program, I would be asking that of you. And we try our best to accommodate that, but we're also aiming to make sure you have a well-rounded experience. So we balance that out. But some of the options at UHN include things like nephrology, neuroscience, eating disorders, surgery, GI, general internal medicine, lots of cardiology. We have cardiology rehab, inpatient cardiology surgery, complex continuing care at rehab, intensive care units, endocrinology, so family health team. So it really does kind of spread the breadth of different areas. And if you think you're a good fit for the clinical emphasis, you should really also consider your ability to manage kind of a fast-paced environment with regular change. With the students, we have students on site right now, and it is oftentimes you just start to become comfortable in an area and then you move on to another area. So there is a flexibility that's required for that. And it is we're a hospital site, so we have a lot of ill people. We're caring for ill people. Unfortunately, some of those ill patients pass away while they're in hospital. So just you should also think about whether or not that's something that you're able to manage emotionally. And certainly, a lot of students kind of develop that capacity when they're there on site. Which is part of their professional growth. But if that's something that concerns you, this might not be the best fit. Okay, so what is the process for applying for the emphasis? We will ask you for 2 pieces in the application. One will be your CV. And the second will be the answer to these 3 questions. So what interests you most about clinical nutrition and patient care? How have you prepared for this area of practice, including both patient care and being able to adapt to fast-paced, self-directed hospital environment? And then lastly, how will your understanding of population and public health enhance your skill as a dietitian, as a clinical dietitian? So we're just looking for a maximum of 250 words for each of those questions. And those 2 pieces will be submitted by June 14th. We have a student education group within the Clinical Nutrition program that looks at the applications and then notice of acceptance is given by July 31st. And it's my understanding that Pierrette is going to provide you with these, with more details in that fillable form just directly after or within the next couple of days. So you can get started right away if this is of interest. This is a busy slide, I know, but I did want to give you some, just a bit of a sense of some of the projects that MPH students have worked on over the last 6 years. And I know this will be recorded, so you could go back and take a more detailed look at this. But we have really valued having students involved in moving some of the work of the department forward. Oftentimes, dietitians don't have enough time in their clinical load to do this kind of work, but they know it's so essential for their patients. So we really value the involvement of students in making this happen and utilizing the skill set that you all developed through your program. I think that's the last slide. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen for a second. Yes.
And should we, you wanted to save questions to the end?
I think that might be the best for now,
okay.
Just so that we can write your questions down. We're going to have a lot of time to answer them. I just want to make sure that you've got all the information available. Yes, Tracy, I will definitely be sending out those forms for both this emphasis and the other emphasis you're going to hear about right after or by the end of today. I have them all set. Plus, we're trying to make sure that the website is up to date. Rhea is fairly new, and so she's just trying to fit that into her her workload right now. But the information that we will distribute to you is the 2021 information. Okay, so next up, I'm going to change my my co-host over to Dahlia so that she can talk to you a little bit more about this brand new emphasis that we have. It is something that has just been approved through the university this year as a result of our new partnership. And I'm very excited that this one's going to start. As a matter of fact, Dahlia may or may not know that we have a student right now who's working with her who has said they like the idea of the new emphasis so much, they're wondering if they can make a late application to it and spend some more time with her. So this is going to be a lot of fun and a really great new partnership. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm very excited. Can you hear me okay? Great. So yes, actually, very excited for this partnership. And we have one of the students right now, wants to extend her placement and wants to be part of this emphasis. So it's awesome to see that. So hi, everybody. I am Dahlia Abu El Hassan. I am Senior Director of Healthcare Business Excellence with Compass Group Canada. And I'll tell you a little bit about that and what I do shortly. And what I'm going to do today is give you a bit of overview about Compass. I am going to ask, though, in the group chat, has anybody heard of Compass Group before today? And if you have or have not, just feel free to drop in a comment in the chat box. Just curious, who's heard of Compass before?
So Dahlia, I can look at that for you.
Sure.
Everybody's saying yes.
There's
There's lots of yes, I have.
Perfect. Awesome. And then what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about healthcare sector, which is the sector I work for, and majority of you who would be in the emphasis will be in our healthcare sector. And then a little bit about the program details, expectations of the emphasis, and what we would be looking for in our candidates. So I'm going to start with a little bit about me. So I am a major foodie. I love eating, I love cooking. And prior to the pandemic, my husband and I traveled a lot around the world. And wherever we travel, we actually take either a cooking class or we go on a market tour to really understand the cultures through food. So very passionate about food and always talking about food. And during the pandemic, of course, switched to gardening. So you can see my garden there, my lettuce, my kale, and a lot of biking and hiking and just, taking up some fresh air. So that's a little bit about me. I love getting to share personal stuff about myself and learn more about our students. We're all humans. We all, enjoy different things. And it's nice to be able to share that in our experiences. So in saying that, I've been with Compass for over 10 years in healthcare, but in different roles. Compass Group Canada is the largest employer in food services and support services. as well as the leading food service and support service organization. We have over 2,000 clients across Canada. 1 in 1,000 Canadians actually work for Compass Group to some extent. So pretty amazing stats here. You might have seen us in universities, colleges, long-term care homes, retirement homes, remote camps. We're known for our sectors. So you might not have heard of Compass Group, but maybe you've heard of some of our sectors. And I've got examples of some of our sectors here. So Compass Group is the large organization. And then we have specialties, which is what each sector is responsible for. So I work in healthcare, which is our Compass One sector. We have Marquee. So if any of you have been maybe dietary aides in some of our long-term care homes, that's the division that looks after our senior living business, as well as retirement homes. We have Chartwells. This is universities, colleges, schools. So we do the dining there. We have ESS, so oils, remote camps. We provide dining as well as housekeeping. We have Milton Cook Chill, which is under your rest. So we actually, one of our dietetic interns is working for Milton Cook Chill. She's designing menus for all the prisons. And that was a new role that was added. We have a lot of our interns actually end up with jobs at Compass Group. So it's really exciting. And Canteen, which is our vending sector. So we have a lot of different areas of specialty. In healthcare specifically, where you would be, we're starting with healthcare, and down the road, we might be looking at our other sectors for the emphasis, but right now, healthcare is the focus. These are some of the hospitals we're in. Are these hospitals in any of your communities? Do you recognize them? Maybe drop a comment in the chat. And Pirek, I can't see the chat box for some reason in my view, but if there's comments, I'd love to hear them.
Sure, that's one of the problems with Zoom. So once you're showing your screen, you can't see the chat. But yes, I'm seeing a couple more yeses. Anybody else see a hospital or a healthcare facility that's near them there?
We're out in BC, Island Health, BC Children's, BC Women's. We're in Newfoundland, Eastern Health, and my team, we got to support the transition there in the patient dining, and we lived for a couple months in Newfoundland. Beautiful. And we're in a lot of hospitals in Ontario, Niagara, North York, that's fairly close to my home. I live in Etobicoke, Hamilton Health Sciences, and so on.
Yeah, we definitely have some yeses, and I'm happy to say I grew up near Niagara, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Niagara was actually a recent win during the pandemic, and Cornwall is a recent win as well. So if an RFP comes out, a request for proposal during our students' time with us, we actually get them to be part of that process, and they get to do a little bit of review of the community, the patient demographic, make menu recommendations, and work with our dietitian and chef. So lots of opportunities there. And we are all virtual right now, my team. However, when there's opportunities to go to our sites, some of our students actually do get to go a few days to see the operations. So very exciting. I mean, patient food services has had a bad reputation for the longest time in the media. And, when people think about hospital food, people don't get so excited about food. We are on a mission to change that perception of patient dining and raise that standard in support services and healthcare innovation. And really proud of the team I have and all the great work that we do on our patient menus. And my team, we actually support national. So we're whatever we do, if you're somebody that gets excited about making an impact on thousands of patients, this is for you. Like this is what gets me excited in the morning, that the work I do, my team, our students, has an impact, not just on one hospital, but it has an impact on, we're in 95 hospitals in Canada, and we're in 150 long-term care homes across Canada as well. So meet my team. You will be working with many of them during your internship with us. We have Chef Brianne on the left-hand side. She is our go-to chef for our sector. I have 2 dietitians on my team, Brielle and Rebecca. They have their different specialties. Brielle does all our equipment planning, staff planning, job routines. She's responsible for our nutrition standards. And Rebecca is responsible for menus and nutrition software. So you get to spend a good amount of time with each of them for their specializations and competencies. And then I'm also responsible for our cuisine center, which is a commissary where we make meals for 21 hospitals in Ontario. We prepare around 1.2 million meals a year for our hospitals. And we get our students to spend a few days there to see the operation, get hands-on. It really helps them in menu development and recipe development. And so Virel leads that operation. So what do? We are called the Business Excellence Team. This group of 5 of us, we do everything from planning menus, recipes for all our hospitals. We do research. So we've actually had a couple of our students work on research proposals with us, and actually one got published last year, so very exciting. So you have an opportunity, if you've got a passion for research and you want to put yourself out there and publish, great opportunity with that, whether it's through your emphasis or through your culminating project or during your placement. We also have a huge focus on malnutrition in healthcare. So looking at, developing nutrient-dense menu items. Our last intern developed and worked with us on implementing a nutrient-dense cheesecake, and we're looking at nutrient-dense cookies right now. So lots of opportunity to look at the whole planning. What equipment do we need? How much will it cost? And all of that. So very exciting to be able to apply our nutrition knowledge that way. And then community support. So you may not think that there's, public health in what we do at campus. However, we actually do a lot of that. And we have our teaching kitchen program. So some of you, I think there are a couple I recognize just from working with before here in this group. We have the teaching kitchen, which is pretty much cooking classes that we do with our community and our hospitals. And we've had this in person. However, during COVID, we actually shifted online. So all interns that spend time with us actually get to facilitate one of our cooking classes live on our social media, and recipe development that way, putting out nutrition tips on our social media and doing a lot of nutrition awareness. And then a new business. So hospitals go out for RFP. So basically they're looking at, a company like us to prepare and plan their patient dining. And we respond to that. We put in our proposal with our staffing, our menu, capital needs and all of that. So when we have an intern and we have an RFP comes out, it's really amazing learning experience. So we get them involved in that. And then sometimes our hospitals request things nationally and we support them with it. So a lot of opportunity to work on menus and innovation across Canada. So just want to share a few images from some of our interns. They've done recipe menu development. This is Husna. She's actually on the line at the Cuisine Center. She wanted to, when she was developing a couple menu items, she actually wanted to see what it's like to be in the operation to help her develop the menu. So she spent a couple days hands-on there. So it's an amazing learning experience. We actually have Hannah on the right-hand side. She's from the MPH program. She actually facilitated one of our teaching kitchens in person at North York General Hospital. This is her with Chef Jill. Developing nutrition standards. During COVID, we had one of our students do a research with all our food service directors on, how did first wave go? Are there lessons learned for second wave? And put a playbook for the whole organization together on some of the learnings. So that was pretty amazing. And then implementing patient dining programs, research, because I do have the Cuisine Center, so we manage a $12 million budget. So, you get hands-on, you get to see the budget, you get to be part of our financial presentation to leadership, and whether it's sourcing equipment, designing menus, lots of opportunities there. And we like to have fun. So we do a lot of socials, virtual socials now. When we were in the office, we would celebrate things like Halloween and whatnot. However, now we've gone virtual. So the wellness of the team, our mental well-being is really important to me and my team. And so we like to take some time to have a little bit of fun. So what are we looking for? We're looking for someone who's flexible, someone who's adaptable. Like for example, we had a food recall today morning. My morning did not go as planned, and you need to be okay with those sort of things that are taking place. Maybe you've had some food service management experience, great. Even if you haven't, why are you passionate about it? Why would you like to explore it deeper? We'd like to hear that as you're answering some of the questions. And then, ability to work in a fast-paced environment. Just like Tracy said, in healthcare, things are go, go, go. You need to be comfortable with that and have really strong time management skills, as some of your projects may be, quick turnaround. Others may take a few weeks to complete. Just being able to juggle and manage all that. And then a lot of what we do, we actually work with health and safety, quality assurance, with our operators. And so there's a lot of collaboration with the team. And so just being able to leverage those support departments, we call them, as you work through your projects. And then we also have a very diverse group of patients and hospitals. So being able to appreciate the nutritional needs of a culturally diverse population. So similar timelines as Tracy for the clinical emphasis, submit your resume. We have 4 questions to be answered. Pierrette will share those questions with you later. We want to just do, when we, for our top candidates, we want to do sort of I'm calling it a virtual interview, but just meet and greet, make sure you're a good fit for us, we're a good fit for you. And then we will be selecting 2 students to start this round of our partnership. Decision will be made by July 31st, again, similar timeline to the clinical. So it will be a total of 8-week placement with Compass. And then you also will have the elective course to build relevant skills to your management and food emphasis, as well as your culminating project. So that's really it. I have my email there. If anybody has any questions, and our Compass website is on the screen too, if you'd like to learn a little bit about Compass Group. And I'll turn it back to Pierrette. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm sure there will be some questions afterwards. And I have to say, I'm actually really excited about the partnership. One of the things that thrills me is the idea that we can show our students / interns how transferable all of the dietetic skills are across all of the areas of practice. And I think they're all extremely valuable to being able to move Canadians' health forward from a nutritional point of view. So yes, I will follow up with those forms by the end of today, and I hope you'll all spend some time thinking about which of these emphases you'd be interested in applying for. You can only pick one emphasis. That's something else I want you to know. You can't do both somehow. So think about it, and we hope to see a bunch of you express your interest. Oh, this isn't ready to move with me. There we go. So there's one more area of subspecialty that I wanted to describe to you as well, because the timelines for it are sometimes coming up in the June window, and I want to make sure you don't miss out your opportunity. These are called collaborative specializations, and these are something that's offered by the Dalla Lana School of Public Health, along with other faculties within the University of Toronto. So it's much bigger than the dietetic and nutrition program. It's actually across all of Dalla Lana. These are an even higher level of specialization in a particular topic area that is something you could match with an emphasis if you were interested. Will get a little bit complicated, but it can be done. So these programs deliver additional interprofessional learning because you're not alone. You would be working with students in biostatistics or epidemiology or Indigenous health, as they also go through the collaborative specialization. The programs are all separately led, and there is a particular application process for each one of them. And some of them have deadlines in June for their applications. So again, I wanted you to be aware of them so that you can do some thinking. And if you are thinking that you'd like to do one of these, particularly if you're also applying for an emphasis, I encourage you to come to me sometime this summer so that we can talk about how to stage in your courses to make sure that you get all of the pieces you need in what is actually a surprisingly fast program of 2 years. So you can see more about it. There is, it says archives, but that is the link to get there. It's within the, you can see it in the picture, perhaps better. On the Dalla Lana website, there is an entire page dedicated to the collaborative specializations. And our students have done various of these. Quite often, the most popular ones are around addiction studies, global health, as you can see, women's health, oops, go back one, Pierrette, and public health policy. These are very popular ones, but they're not the only ones that are available. So do take a look through this page, and I can make sure you have the link in the email as well, so that it's live for you to just click on and go visit. If there's one that interests you, like I say, not all of them, but some do have deadlines for application that will come up in June, and we wanted to make sure you can think about that. So now let's go to you, because I know there are probably questions, and I'm going to take myself off share so that I can see hands go up and that sort of thing. And I invite all of our faculty as well to jump in to answer questions where you may have them. So why don't I open the floor and stop talking? Nina.
Hi. I'm wondering, is it possible to like do, you said you could do a collaborative specialization and an emphasis. Is it possible to do 2 collaborative specializations if you had like an interest in public health policy, like and women's health or something like that?
Yes, possible. Again, every time you add a layer of complexity like that, we need to be on top of your program to make sure that you're not missing out on any piece. So we have had students who've done that. We need to plan very carefully because oftentimes what happens is you have to have some kind of a placement that allows you to explore the women's health issue, for example, and the public policy issue. And we have to think about very carefully how that works with your requirements for dietetic entry to practice. It has been done. We have had students work on population health projects that relate to women's health and public health policy, and then they found a way to make their courses work so they can get the required courses for both collaborative specializations. But yes, if you're into that, please reach out sooner rather than later, because we may even start to think about how you structure your fall courses to make sure that you get every prerequisite that you need. Great question, thank you.
It's Mary. If I might add to that, the other important piece about having a good understanding with respect to whether or not you've been accepted into 1 or 2 specializations is because that also has implications for your placements. And oftentimes it requires, as Pierrette has mentioned, multiple layers of seeking an appropriate placement to be able to meet the requirements for that particular, those 2 specializations. And that sometimes does involve a fair bit of research on both our part to try to land that, so that you're not looking for multiple placements to try to meet that need. But that kind of gets to be fun because then we're looking for something really unique and interesting.
Other questions? Sherry.
Hi, I was just wondering if we're going to be receiving an email sometime about the scholarships and awards for the Dalai Lama School.
That's a great question. Yes, I think that the, so yes and no, actually I should preface that. Because you don't have UToronto emails just yet, I'm not sure what you get circulated from the graduate office. But what I've done in the final slide is I've indicated that there are some awards where the awards page is, and that there are a couple of them that are particular to nutrition and dietetics that you should consider looking at. I think they come up in June and they require an application. So let me just talk a little bit about awards, and I'll come back to that on our final slide. The Dalai Lama School of Public Health has a couple of general awards that you don't have to apply for, that are offered to you upon entry, depending on grades and that sort of thing. They usually make that decision fairly soon, and we know about that before we know about your applications for other awards. And then there are a couple of awards that are specific to the nutrition and dietetics program. So on the awards page, you'll actually see that there are 4 of them. There are 2 that are open to our first year class. And that information on the website hasn't quite caught up to the award records that our advancement team has been updating. So the Daniel Haas Scholarship is available to incoming students, and it requires an application. And there are 2 available for about $3,000 each, I think. And then there's the Grace Waymark Morgan Award that is also available. I think there may be only one of it. I can't remember right now, but that one is also a requirement for an application. The Grace Waymark Morgan Award right now says you have to come from Memorial University, which does not have a dietetics undergrad program anymore. They do it in partnership with Acadia, I think it is, or it's CNFX, I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. The point is that that needed to be updated. So preference for that award is now given to people who come from the East Coast or have completed their dietetic training on the East Coast, to make sure that we capture the pool of students that was intended by the original donor. But those two are available to you as first-year students. For second year, you are eligible to apply for Ontario Graduate Scholarships. We've just gone through the review process for that. We do not see the nutrition and dietetics students, so I don't know if any of you applied for those, or maybe will receive those. However, that process is open to second-year students as well. And there are also a stipend that's provided to all unpaid first-year placements. You will all have an unpaid first-year placement. That's just how it works. And so that's about $3,000 a year that you don't have to apply for, but it comes into your university account usually in July. So that's some of the information. There may be other awards that you're eligible for that are more general to students at Dalla Lana. I'm mostly familiar with the ones that are particular to our program. So do look at that page. Again, the link is at the end, but I will send it to you again in the email that we send out so that you have it to zero right in on that page. And if there's anything that you're eligible for, apply for it. My best advice. Any other question about that? Any other question? Asil?
Hi.
Did I say that right first?
You did. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if we needed a food safety certificate for placements, if you happen to know.
We haven't required that, but maybe Mary and perhaps Dahlia could speak to how valuable that might be.
I can start. So actually it's not currently a requirement. However, I would say for all of us Compass employees, we need to be doing, actually I'm doing my advanced food safety recertification. We have to every 3 years. It would definitely be a major asset for any of the projects you would be completing. I mean, we live and breathe food safety here at Compass. Health and safety, food and safety are #1 priority. And if you're working in food services, it tends to be mandatory. So not sure if there's something through the program, but Mary, it's definitely valuable experience. Lots of great learnings there, especially if you're working on putting a recipe together, like knowing the HACCP and all of that. So very good question.
Yes, it is a very good question. Thank you for that. And I'm glad, Dahlia, you spoke first, because I'm sure as we venture into the emphases that we have with you now, that will become more and more important for those of you who do apply to that emphasis and are accepted into it. I have not found in all of the placements that I have dealt with that we've had a requirement for a food safety certificate. And there's been the one-off where it might have been ideal and a student has pursued it, actually, I believe through public health, but right now it's not a requirement, as Pierrette has noted.
Always a good thing maybe to consider for your resume, given that you may find yourself working in food as a result of your credentials.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say your name, Nikea. Is that right? Or did I say it wrong?
No, you got it right. It's Nikea. Thank you so much. I just have another question that kind of aligns with Asil's. I was wondering if we need a particular CPR or first aid certification for any of our placements, or if it's mandatory, if it's not.
Okay, again, I don't believe that has been mandatory. It may have some advantages depending on the environment you're going into, but maybe Mary would like to comment on that.
We have no requirement. This is something that Synergy does collect for other departments like nursing and medicine. However, for the nutrition and dietetics program at this moment in time, we do not require those. Having said that, it's never a bad thing if you have the opportunity to be able to seek certification in those areas. We don't discourage that, but it's not a requirement.
Tracy, did you want to add to that?
No, nothing to add.
Okay. Yeah, again, these kinds of certifications are well aligned with the type of work that you may find yourselves doing. And even when I was working, nothing to do with a healthcare institution, but at General Mills, at one point, because I had a first aid and CPR certificate, I ended up being able to get more profile within the organization as part of the health and safety team. So these things, they have value for you from a professional portfolio point of view. Other questions?
If I might jump in again while folks are thinking about any additional questions, I just wanted to clarify the expectations around the emails that we will send. I've just checked into the Synergy requirements. We will actually require that you have a University of Toronto email before we can send anything from Synergy, because we upload that information so that they can then have contact with you. And I'm sure none of us would want them dealing with your personal emails. So that, and I'm looking at some of the dates, that together with the other email, so Synergy, and then the email with the appointments / meetings for discussion about placement. Let's just say by the end of July, because we're hopeful that you will have a University of Toronto address by that point in time. Towards the end of July, we can get both of those emails to you, and that way we know you'll have your University of Toronto email. Kind of becomes important as you move into the program.
Yeah, we do want to maintain your privacy, so we're not anxious to keep broadcasting your email to everybody. Sherry, you have a question.
Yes, I was just wondering if we know how many spots are available for each emphasis.
We do. Would you each like to take that question, Tracy and Dahlia?
Sure, yeah. We're aiming for a minimum of 8 at UHN. We'll see, we'll assess closer to the time, but minimum of 8, maximum of 10.
And for the management and food emphasis, you know, being our first group here going through it, we're planning to start with 2, and then we'll see how uptake is and take it for the future years. We might be able to increase it as well, but we're starting with 2 right now.
And I just want to reemphasize that COVID has had a huge impact on the workplace. A lot of people who have been well have been worked to the nth degree and are feeling now quite a bit of strain. So even as the pandemic winds down, there's certainly going to be some consideration of that for our preceptors. And we have to be careful about how many people we have, you know, with each preceptor, how many times they take on students over the course of the next 12 months and that sort of thing. We're trying to be very generous with everybody because it's been a very difficult time. And as Tracy mentioned, UHN is committed in a good year, in a normal year, if there is such a thing, that they could go up to 10 students. That's a good chunk of our program if you are interested in clinical. So please don't be afraid to express your interest. We're very new with Compass right now, and we don't know what the expectations should be. You're helping us to set some of that understanding. So we didn't want to overestimate what it was going to look like. And at this time, you know, knowing that Compass is open to, you know, a little bit of flexibility. I think if we had really 3 fabulous partners, we may be, or 3 fabulous students interested, we may be able to accommodate you, but we've pledged for 2 just to make sure that it's manageable as we work out the bugs in our new year. Christine, you have a question.
Yes, hi. I'm just wondering about the collaborative specialization. Is it like a similar application process for the emphasis? And are there like a limit of how many students for each one?
Because each one of those programs are run by their own program director, I can't answer that question honestly for all of the programs. They differ. So every one of them has an application process, and it is something that is only open to students after they've been accepted into an MPH. So that much is similar. What their application process consists of might be quite different because they're all particular. Some of them have an application process of an interview with the program director. Some of them want certain documentation and, answering of questions or a letter of intent. Some of them need to see some kind of portfolio of your historical work in the area. They're very unique to their particular area. So if a topic catches your eye, I would suggest you dig in a little bit more to understand both what the requirements of the specialization are. For example, some of them require a paper and no placement at all. Some of them require more coursework than others, and you don't have as much elective space as some programs, so that may be a deciding factor. And some of them require that you take on a very particular type of a placement, and that may or may not be consistent with what you want or need for your dietetic training. And then once you've figured out which of these collaborative specializations look potentially workable with your program, then it's a matter of understanding what their application requirements are. And each one of them have that up on their particular information page. And even when you go visit them, you'll notice that each of their pages look different from one to the next because the programs all have their own personality.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, I see another hand, Nina.
Yeah, just wondering when we get to start selecting courses or trying to figure out what fall looks like. Do you have any kind of timeline for that?
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up the next slide. And so I won't see all of you quite as well. So if I miss a hand, somebody call me out. But I think this is important for us to get to because that's when we, switch slides. There we go. That's when we can talk about, so we'll follow-ups and the awards scholarship information that I will make sure I have connected you with from email as well. The graduate office will be hosting their real orientation sessions on July 19th, and I can't see the other date, August 5th, there we go. And they already have the timing planned for that, but they haven't yet sent out any notices about them. They will address registration, course enrollment, T-cards, UTOR ID, which is your email, and then ACORN, which is the course selection website. It's not the right word, I don't know, platform, and Quercus, which is our course shell platform that allows you to get in and see the course materials and share. All of that is going to be coming out earlier in July, I think they said, or did they say June? Again, I can't see my screen. Early July. So they were willing to come today. Oh, why did I do that? That's funny. They were willing to come today. I'm going to get that screen back up. But we felt that perhaps it's a little too early. We wanted to make sure you understood the things that needed to be, you were thinking about by the time you got through till the end of June. And then they will jump in at that point to get you lined up for course registration and so forth. One question I have for Mary and Angela is for our email that we are going to send out with the awards information, the collaborative specialization information, and the forms for the emphases. Would it be possible for you to supply me with a list of the things that students will need to acquire for their preclinical requirements so that they can begin the process of checking? For example, if they've had a hepatitis shot, but it hasn't been since grade 7, and they're interested in making sure that they have the immunity that they need, they can start that even before they get involved with our friends at Synergy. Is that something that you guys can send me?
Absolutely, no problem.
Okay, so that way you'll at least have the list and you can begin that process. Yeah. We know that you're all anxious and very keen to get this rolling and to join your master's program, but little bits at a time, because there's some time sensitive material before the end of June, but really it's this summer when you'll jump into the process of becoming a full-on part of the Dalla Lana School of Public Health. I'm going to leave that up and I'm going to avoid pressing any more links. Are there other questions? It looks, oh wait, I do see one. I'm sorry. I am not going to pronounce your name properly. Jing?
Zing, yes.
Ding. Okay.
So I have a question about the immunization records. I was volunteering at the hospital before, so they asked me to do that during application. So I have it like a few years ago, and I don't know if the immunization record has to be like tested right before you enter the placement, or it's okay even if it's a year, like a few years back.
I think I'm going to have to defer to Mary or to Angela to answer that question, because I'm not sure what the requirements have been.
So I can jump in and just say that you may have to redo some of those if they're out of date. So Synergy will be able to tell us what the time frame is as well, that you need to have those records, because some things will not be retested. TB is not being retested anymore, but your doctor can actually put a note about what your status is for that. So that's part of the documentation we need, is not necessarily a new immunization, but information about your status. And so some of those things have a time frame, but others just it's blood work. So yeah.
Okay, so the answer is maybe. Some
Maybe.
of the information you had gathered before might be applicable, and it's about collecting those records, and there are some things that you may be asked to update.
And if they're going to expire during placement, you would have to update those.
Okay, I thought I saw two hands go up at the same time. Jing, is that a good answer for your question, or do you need something more?
No, I'm just saying thank you, that's all.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I see that Nikaya's hand is up, and if there's somebody else, you're going to have to do it again because I lost your hand.
Yes, I just have another question regarding the public health emphasis. I know due to the pandemic, you were saying that Toronto Public Health is unable to help us fulfill those requirements. But do you have, any idea on the foreseeable future if that would be an option if we're, 1 year into the program, or could we come back to that?
We're actually exploring could you come back to that question right now on behalf of the management and food systems emphasis with our going to be soon second year student who has indicated she wants to maybe do that. It's a fair question, and I think that beyond Toronto Public Health, even without having an emphasis, a lot of our students are finding really great ways to become involved in population health work. Certainly our degree requirements have a lot of public health, population health material in them, and there's nothing stopping you from taking the course requirement that would be a part of the emphasis. You and I can talk about it some more as we get closer to the fall if you'd like, but for right now, I'm not sure, because we had officially had hosts for our emphasis, that we will be in a position to do it. If Toronto Public Health can come back online and you're still in the program, then maybe so.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, and I see a hand up from Eileen.
Hi, I was wondering if you would recommend us get our T card now or wait until July 19th when they talk more about it?
I'm not sure that you can right now. I'm not sure what the requirements are. I leave some of those details to the grad office because I am really not that well informed. So if you think that it's possible, maybe you've already paid your fees and you're very keen to get your T card, I would call or contact the grad office directly and find out the process. They may tell you to wait just because they're going to give good instructions, and there might be some reason why it makes more sense to do it in the summer.
Thank you.
I thought I saw another hand come up, and I just want to see if I can answer all the questions. Okay. Ina? Is it Ina?
Hi. Yeah, that's right. I did have one question actually. For students who are interested in pursuing or developing their research skills, I know there's an opportunity to explore research and placement, but is there any room in electives in our second year of the program to do a little bit more of like a research specialization?
We don't have a research specialization, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't do research as a part of your program. So there are many ways to approach this. You can take some additional practicum time if you feel that there's a research project that you would like to be involved in. And some of our students have done that as part of their placements. We are doing a culminating course, and that culminating course asks you to take on a fairly substantive project of some kind and become involved in leading it to the place where the host organization is getting something back out of it. In the past, we've had students who we used to do what was called a second-year practicum, and their research project, they had a research project as part of their second-year practicum. So we think that the culminating project could be a way to incorporate some of that research. And there are definitely research related courses that you're invited to explore as part of your electives. So while there isn't an official way to call out a research subspecialty, there are definitely ways to become involved in enough research that you may end up with a publication or a presentation at a conference. You may find a way to move into a PhD program. That is not unheard of. I think almost every year of the past 3, there's been at least one of our students who've moved into a PhD right after they finished the program. So those are definitely reasons why spending some more time with research would be valuable to you. And practice-based research is something that we as dietitians maybe don't do as much as we should. And so any kind of research skill you bring to the field, I think is going to only be valuable for you. So if that's your interest, I'm happy to help you. And I'm sure Mary and or Angela would be as well, to figure out how to get into that as part of your program.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, I was talking a fair bit there. I thought I saw another hand. I see some chats. Let me see what's going on. Oh, okay. So Sherry has let us know that it is possible to get a T card. And that's maybe something that, again, I would say the grad office would be a much better resource to help you through. I don't know enough. I would be dangerous. And I had a conversation here. Eric and I were talking a little bit on the side about when we would receive your UToronto IDs and so forth. I've suggested that we are going to need those details, but maybe they can go to Rhea at the email address that I have here, dietetics.dlsph@utoronto.ca, so that she can gather that kind of information as we need it. Let me just see if there are other questions. Okay, so Christine, I'm going to suggest you reach out to the grad office, because they're going to have the right answers for you in order to be able to get your T card. They know how. They may not be quite ready, but they know how.
Okay, I'll just wait for like the July Zoom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, these things are possible earlier. It's just not necessary, or I suppose the norm. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Nina.
Sorry if you can hear the lawnmower behind me, but I hope you can hear me too. I was wondering if there's any information on like student housing, or if that's all just available online, or if you guys knew anything specific that we should be looking out for right now, or if anything's changed.
That's a bigger question. Okay, so there is a student housing office through the university. It's not through us per se, it's through the university. There are specific graduate student residences on campus, but student housing actually allows you to reach out into the community around the university. A lot of times apartments that are not on campus particularly are posted there. That is a piece of the resourcing that I can look and see if I can send you a link to that as well. I don't know if you need to have any particular University of Toronto IDs to be able to access it. Again, not enough information to be very helpful. However, what I can say is that even as of yesterday, when we were having a faculty meeting, there are no good answers about what the fall is going to look like right now. Toronto's a bit of a hot spot still. And I don't know how soon that's going to be at a stage where everybody is comfortable that gatherings are allowed. There's a lot of talk about getting everybody vaccinated, but you're not fully vaccinated until you've had 2 courses and then wait 2 weeks. So I think we've got some time ahead of us before I just stop sharing again. Why don't I just stop sharing for the moment? it's going to be some time before we actually can say what the rules will look like in September. The university has said they'd like to have classes in person, but there are 70,000 plus undergraduate students who come to campus, and then there's all of the graduate students as well from all of the different programs and all the professional programs like the MBAs and the medicines and so forth. And I just don't know how we're going to have the space on campus to keep everybody adequately distanced, to have the ventilation that's required in all these buildings. And I'm confident at this point that we're going to at least need to have some kind of hybrid through the fall, if not continuing online. You may want to think about that before you go securing an apartment in Toronto, because it's costly. And if you commit yourself to something like that for the fall term, you may end up spending more for the degree than you need to, especially if you're going to be able to do much of it online. Many of our students who started this year have never come to Toronto, and we have been placing them in their home communities across Canada so that they didn't have to come to Toronto even for placement in some cases. So I don't have the best answer for you on that yet. I can certainly provide you with a student housing link, but I'd say wait.
Okay, thanks.
Angela.
I just wanted to add to that as well. If you are planning on moving and you have some idea, placements are being booked for you very soon. So we start. I know that Mary's already started for looking for placements for you for next fall, or sorry, next January. So this information needs to be communicated back to Mary so that she can not end up placing you someplace that you can't get to. Other things like if you have access to a vehicle or if you will be able to take public transit, those things are all really relevant, because part of that placement planning process is to make sure you're not spending 4 or 5 hours a day commuting somewhere. And like Prince says, we don't know what will be in person, of course, but that's just, I think, a really important thing to keep Mary apprised of, is where you'll be.
Yeah, and you may not know that yet. And I just want to assure you that we get it. Where I think I can speak for Mary, she may want to embellish this a little bit. She's looking for placement spots, and we can suspect that we're going to have a certain number of people who are fairly local. If you're already in the Toronto area and you know you're likely to stay at least there, that's helpful information for Mary. If you're not anywhere close to Toronto, and we've got students right now, we're on the East Coast and on the West Coast, and they said, if I don't have to move, I'd kind of rather not. If I can get through the fall doing hybrid work for my courses, and then I can do placements in my home province, I maybe would like to do that. And that would also be valuable for us to hear, even as you're starting to think about it. Mary, would you like to take it from there?
Yes, thank you. These are all excellent points. And these would definitely be the kinds of questions that I will be putting out to you in that email as we plan for our meetings in August. So you will have, hopefully, that's why it's nice to have the meetings in August, even though I am reaching out already to various placement sites, because it will, let us become more familiar with what the university is planning to do in terms of remote virtual classes, what you plan to do, what's going to work for you in terms of where you're located, and all of the things that Angela has noted. Those will become very, very important in these challenging times. More so, we always talk about this in all the other years when we're talking about placements. However, it becomes even more critical because we do want it to be something that's comfortable for you and also safe for you, and also, at a reasonable cost. So definitely consider all of these things that have been noted, because we will be discussing them in August when it comes time to actually talk about placement opportunities and what those could look like for you.
So my takeaway then, Mary, is you don't need this information today.
No.
And that's good, because the students can then wait and see if there's any more concrete information from the university before they make some big decisions about
Right. I think we need more information. It needs to be an evidence-informed decision. Let's start the process there. So
we love our evidence.
let's gather the facts and see where you are in terms of what finances, you know, you're scraping together to make it work. Where is it going to work? Can you come to Toronto? Are you in Toronto? These are all things that we will take into consideration when it comes time for discussion around placement and all the nuances related to that, especially if you're not in the Toronto area, because then we need to start reaching out to others across the country in the province where other universities are placing their students. All to be discussed in August.
We are getting really close to the end of our meeting. And so I thought if there's even one more question, we can handle that now. Otherwise, just wait. Otherwise, I'm very happy to wrap things up, to make sure that you know where our recording is. I'll figure that out when I can, as soon as I can. And also to send you out follow-up email to everybody with the forms that we've promised and some of the links that might be helpful as you think about your next little bit before you hear officially from the graduate office about their orientation sessions. Thank you very much, everybody. Really good to meet you all again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Nice
everyone.
meeting everyone.
Have a good day.
Have a good summer.